Warm greetings to all the participants. Heartfelt thanks to the International Center for Evidence in Disability for this opportunity. My name is Suresh, and I'm presenting on behalf of all the authors from the Indian Institute of Public Health Hyderabad, CBM, and Humanity Inclusion. Given the pandemic, basically we did a study to understand the impact of COVID-19 on persons with disability in India. And I'm going to present the findings of the study to you all. This study was funded by CBM and Humanity Inclusion. Why did we do this study? Basically, mainstreaming disability within the agenda for health has been a growing public health problem in India. There have been several contextual barriers to promoting disability and rehabilitation related activities in the country, and non-inclusive health systems for rehabilitation have been a major source for this problem. Given this pre-pandemic context, we expected that people with disabilities will be experiencing much more vulnerability and risks related to the COVID-19 pandemic and its consequences in India. And therefore, we intended to do the study. The objective of this study was to evaluate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on persons with disabilities during the first wave of this pandemic in India. How did we do the study? We used a cross-sectional mixed methods approach. The data were collected from a representative sample of 404 persons with disabilities in about 14 states in India during the COVID-19 pandemic first wave. We collected data at two different points during the COVID-19 pandemic's first wave. The first point is the phase where there was pandemic restriction and lockdown. And we also collected data at a point in time where there was release or the restriction were eased during the lockdown phase. Factors associated with negative impact of COVID-19 on persons with disabilities and paired comparison of this impact between the lockdown and post-lockdown phase were examined. What did we find? About 60% of the participants found it difficult to access emergency medical services during the lockdown phase, and 40% post-lockdown. Likewise, 75% found it difficult to access any rehabilitation services during the lockdown phase, and it was 41.7% during the post-lockdown phase. About 24.3% of the respondents were apprehensive of the risk of infection during the lockdown, and this reduced to 8.4% during the post-lockdown phase. Parents of children with disability were significantly impacted due to the lockdown in the areas of medical, rehabilitation, and mental health services. So we would like to conclude by saying that COVID-19 and the associated lockdown restrictions in India have negatively impacted persons with disabilities during the first wave of the pandemic. It is absolutely critical to mainstream disability within the agenda for health and development with pragmatic, context-specific strategies and programs in India. We'd like to thank you again for your patient listening. For any correspondence, the details are given below. Thank you once again.